Hello traders and investors, welcome back to the Trend Trader channel. Now we are starting year 2023. Before we move forward with year 2023, I would like us to go back in time and look at how the JSE performed in year 2022. So the reason why I'm interested in this is because some of these companies have been interesting in year 2022 and some of them are going to continue to be interesting in year 2023. Before we continue, I would like to ask those who haven't subscribed to please consider subscribing, and if you find value in this video, please make sure that you smash that like button. If you have any comments or suggestions, please leave them in the comment section. So we saw that year 2022 was a challenging year for investors depending on where you invested, whether you invested in the Johannesburg Security Exchange or you are invested in New York Security Exchange or other exchanges outside South Africa. So what we're looking at here, we're looking at the chart of the JSE Top 40, which is the top 40 largest companies by market capitalization in the Johannesburg Security Exchange. We can see that the chart shows that it just look a bit flat-ish depending on how you want to look at it. So if you go back in time where it started, the market started around the 3rd of January or 4th January 2022, and then it ended somewhere just on the 30th of December 2022. So we can see that the market was slightly bearish. Just from that, basically it seems like it closed flat. If you look at where it opened somewhere around 67,210 points, and then it closed somewhere around 66,955 points. But remember, this is not a total return. By total return, we mean that the companies, they did pay dividends, so we take the dividends into consideration. This is just the market performance. So we can conclude that the JSE Top 40 was a bit flat, even though there was a lot of action that was happening. You can see that somewhere around February 2022, coming all the way to September 2022, the market was bearish before it started to push up back again, coming back to about 70,000-ish point before it started to pull back a bit. So for year 2023, we would like to see where does this market goes. But as you can see, just because the JSE Top 40 was flat, it doesn't mean that there were no other companies that performed better than the JSE Top 40. So now let us look at some of the companies that performed well. So we are going to look at the performance over a 12 months period, which is the previous period that we were looking at. So if you go under the trading view screen, you will see that you can screen using different ways. In this case, we are looking at the performance tab, and we are sorting out the stocks using the yearly performance, because now we have closed a 12 months calendar period. So then we can look at those companies over a 12 months period. So what you see here, I would like us to just focus on the top 20 companies, not at all the 381 companies in the JSE. So for those that are not aware, so it means that the JSE has 381 companies that are listed in there. So from this list, we can see that there are a lot of companies. For example, if you look at this number one, which is just shy of 2000% performance, but to look at this, there were months where the company was at 0. So I think this company was not listed at that time. That is why we see a lot of 0% changes, especially if you're looking at the different time frames. Remember that we are focusing on the yearly performance change. So if you can look between the 3 months performance and 6 months performance, we can see that the stock had started to go up in the last 6 months, or in the previous 6 months. So now there's a lot of things that we can say about these companies. We can see there are companies such as Stefanut, which also performed well. There's somewhere around 220%. We see African Dawn Capital, which is also up 87%. There are a lot of companies, including Etion. You can see that Etion is up by just about nearly 62%. There are a lot of other companies, and then we can also see that there is a bond ETF which was up by 51%. Remember that we saw that there was a rising interest rate. People, we had a video where we showed that the retail savings bond were giving at least a 10% plus. Well, we're just gonna call it interest rate. Some people, they will call it a yield, but if you're investing, you are going to get somewhere around 10% interest from the retail savings bond. So it is not a surprise that the SA bond ETF is also part of this list. But whenever I trade, I prefer to trade highly liquid companies. By liquid, I mean companies that you can easily sell or buy in the market. I don't want companies where it is difficult to buy. But other than the market cap and the liquidity, there are a lot of companies that are worth noting, such as Novus Holding, which was also up by 55%. So for those companies, for the sake of liquidity, the ease to get in and get out of the market, let us look at the companies that have a higher liquidity and also have a higher market capitalization. So if you go there under filters, we are going to filter companies that have a market capitalization of at least 300 million, and then we're looking at a volume of about 100,000. 50,000 is fine, but 100,000 is the sweet spot for me. So any company that has a market cap that is greater than 300 million is going to show on the list, and any company that has an average trading volume of over 100,000 is also going to show. So there are companies that can have a market cap that is greater than 300 million, but a volume that is less than 100,000. As you can see, if you take it down to 50, we start to see companies such as Thungela, they start showing, and also companies like Octotec. But if you go up to 100,000, we see that Thungela starts to disappear, even though Thungela is one of the companies that performed very well in the year 2022. So we are not saying that these are the only companies that performed well. These are the companies based on this filter that we have just applied. So after applying this filter, we can see that now we see some changes in the companies. We can see that now what is leading is MC Mining, which is up by 240%. It is followed by a lot of other companies coming all the way up to Pick and Pay. Remember, I said that I want us to cover the top 20. So there are companies that are in this list, but they didn't make the top 20 cut. We can see companies such as Vukile, Property Fund, and Kumba Iron Ore. But just before we reach 20, we can see that number 19 and number 20, which is Shoprite and Pick and Pay, now they start to have a performance that is less than 10%. Remember, this is based on the market cap and the volatility, and also the liquidity of the stock. There are companies such as Thungela which are filtered out of this. So we can see all these companies that have performed well. Then from these companies we can start to look for trading or investing opportunities, as we expect that some of these companies are going to continue to perform well in year 2023. So now this is the list of all these companies. You can just pause the video here and then go through the list. What we have here is the JSE share code of those particular companies, the current share price in rands, and the stock name of those companies also. You can see we have a dividend yield, how much that company pays a dividend. This is the forward dividend, which is the projected dividend yield for the next 12 months. But if you look at the dividend, this is the dividend that was paid in the last 12 months. So basically this dividend, it is in rand. It is a combination of an interim and final dividend. All these companies, they pay dividends at different dates. So it's going to be spread all over the period of 12 months. Then it is your responsibility to go back and check which company pays the dividend when. And also from this list we can see that there are companies that have a 0% dividend yield, such as MC Mining, which we see there at 0, and also we see that the Fortress, which is a real estate investment trust, it also has a dividend yield of 0%. But most of the companies have a dividend yield that is greater than 0%. And also on top of that, we can see that the dividend that is paid, even though we see that in Insimbi Industrial Holding, it has a dividend yield of 2.8%, but the dividend that was paid was 0. Remember, it is a forward dividend yield, so it is an estimate for the next 12 months. So in this case, TradingView estimates that Inzim is going to have a dividend yield of 2.8% going forward in the next 12 months. So now you can look at these companies. If you're a dividend investor, you can then start to drill down in combination to the fact that these are some of the top 20 performing companies for year 2022. You can take the dividend yield into consideration, you can take the dividend into consideration, and then you can supplement this information with whatever kind of analysis that you do whenever you are making an investing decision, so that you ensure that whenever you invest, you are making the right decision for yourself. What you can see here, this is a bit diversified list. You can see there are resources stocks such as MC Mining, Glencore, Exaro, and also we can see that there's one real estate investment trust. There's also financials in the form of Outsurance Group, Absa Group, and also Investec, Nedbank, Standard Bank. And also we can see that there are retailers such as Shoprite Holdings, Pick and Pay, and Woolworths. So this is a bit diversified. So to sum things up, the purpose of this video was to just show you some of the top 20 performing companies, and then they are filtered by their market capitalization. We are looking at a market cap that is greater than 300%, and also we are looking at liquidity. We are looking at shares that trades at least 100,000 shares per day. Some stocks, if they trade less than 100,000 shares per day, then those stocks are filtered out. So this could be a good basis if you want to create a dividend investing portfolio, but a dividend portfolio that has a bit of a momentum. Remember what the other guy, Isaac Newton, said: things that are in motion, they do tend to stay in motion. But remember, past performance does not imply future performance. We saw previously companies such as Tesla, Apple, and an ETF, ARC Innovation ETF. They were leading in year 2020 and year 2021, but they performed poorly in year 2022. So take this information with a teaspoon of salt, because this does not guarantee that these companies are going to perform well in year 2023. But again, the other purpose of this video was to show you how you can filter out for information using a TradingView. If you come back to this tab, we can go to the dividend tab, where then we can see the dividend yield that is being paid by these companies, including the share price. You can see here the dividend yield, it is a forward dividend yield, and then this is the dividend paid in the previous financial or full year. The full year, it means that it's a combination of an interim and the final result. Also the dividend per share, it is the dividend that was paid. And then you can see here at the bottom, when we look at Inzimbi Industrial, we can see the dividend yield, the forward dividend yield is 2.8%. However, the dividend that was paid in the previous 12 months is 0 rand. It means that they didn't pay. So it is a projection for the next 12 months. So that's it that I wanted to share with you today. Once again, if you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing. We will be making a video to show you what is our stock pick for year 2022 year 2023. So just make sure that you subscribe, you hit that bell notification, so that you don't miss that video when we make it. And if you did find value in this video, please smash that like button. We will see you in the next video.